All right. Good morning. Welcome to the SitRep for today. And it is what are we up to? 18th? Damn. Time is flying along. All right. So this is your SitRep for it's the 19th. It's going faster than I thought. 19th of May, 2022. What was stuff that happened overnight? Some interesting things. I hope you're doing well in the world, wherever you are. For those who haven't joined me before, I'm going to go through some stories. We're going to talk about it from a prepping perspective, and in particular from the Australian prepping perspective, because there are a lot of news sources and things we can get for places outside of Australia. It's not exclusively Australian too. It will apply to a lot of different places, and I think it's something that we all need to think about no matter where we are in the world, is better preparing ourselves for what's coming in the future, because I think we're probably heading towards a time where things are going to get a bit harder for us as individuals. And I want you to be safe in this age of crisis. All right. First off, what I'm going to talk about is what's happening in the US situation in particular to do with civil disorder and riots. So obviously we've been seeing a number of riot type activities happening in the US in the past week or two. We've had a number of shootings in the US. There definitely seems to be a level of angst that has stepped up there, in my view at least, like looking from the outside, looking into what's going on over there. And certainly having spent the last week, for me, not being in a rural setting, being in a city setting, being in Australia's largest city, I can certainly feel that's here as well, that the general level of angst within the population appears to be, or feels to me at least, my observation of it is increased. I think that we're entering into a level of increased aggression within the average person. That kind of stemming from the fact that we're being bombarded and entrenched into a culture of fear at the moment. And as I always like to tell people, fear is never a good place to be acting from. I mean, fear is a very useful tool if we know how to use it. If we don't know how to use fear, then more often than not, we're going to get ourselves into trouble. Fear is a mechanism that drives human survival. So fear is a very, very handy thing for us to have as humans, as long as we understand it to a greater extent and know how to then utilize it. Feeling fear is not a bad thing. Like, I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, and there's this thing that, like, to go to war and stuff, you have to be fearless. It's like, no one wants a fearless person around them. A fearless person is fucking crazy and is almost useless. What you actually want is somebody who feels fear, understands fear, and then uses that fear to motivate them to do something productive. And that's what we should really be thinking about, is converting fear into confidence, converting fear into action. Once fear becomes action, then it's actually useful. Positive action, that is, not destructive action. So anyway, getting back to the US, what's happening there? Obviously, we've had this Roe versus Wade type thing happening, this whole abortion debate that's going on there. They're about to, or they have released the review or the overturning of that in the Supreme Court in the US. So they're bracing for impact at the moment, that this is going to cause a huge amount of civil unrest, that people are going to hit the streets and start rioting more than they already are. They've got reports that some pro-abortion extremists have reportedly threatened to torch the Supreme Court and murder both the justices and their clerks. Wow. Things just got out of hand. That's pretty extreme, like death threats against public officials, destroying of public buildings. This is dystopian fiction being played out in real life. So hopefully that doesn't come about. I mean, I don't really care where you stand on this either side, and I'm not saying that I stand on either side of it in particular. I'm not telling you what my stance is on either side of it, because I don't, it's not really that appropriate. What is appropriate is the after effect, the human effect that always comes out of something like this. And so, people coming out and say we're going to murder judges, Supreme Court judges, that is a pretty big deal. And I think we should be paying attention to this sort of stuff and go like, is this what we want to be as a society? Is this where we want to be going with this? Not that I'm saying that we need to shut it down. I just think that we need to open some sort of discourse or something about this. It's like there's something very wrong here. What we need to do as preppers, though, is start to look at this situation and start to analyze, okay, this is happening here in the US. This is happening in the US, not here in the US. This is happening in the US. This is not an isolated event, though. Are we seeing protests and riots in other parts of the world? Yes, absolutely. What are they about in other parts of the world? Well, there's a number of different reasons, but Sri Lanka, as I keep talking about, they're obviously entrenched in massive turmoil within their country, and it's manifesting in a lot of rioting within their country. But they're out of shit. They're out of petrol. They're out of so there's no fuel. They're out of money. They're running low on food. They're out of medical supplies. It's getting dire. So if people are doing this, are acting this way in a Western country about a situation, like they're still being fed. There's still electricity. There's still lights on. There's still water that they can access, and they're acting this way. They're saying, "Hey, we're gonna burn this building. We're gonna kill these people." What happens? How do you think these people are going to act when there is less food? How do you think these people are going to act when there is no food? I think it's going to be pretty dire. I don't know what the reserves are of food within the US, but yeah, I don't think it's at a point where if they were to shut down, if things were to get really bad for them there, then I could see a marked increase in the rioting, the destruction that you're going to see in what I view at least as the pinnacle of Western society. So the US being the kind of forefront, the weather vane, the vanguard of Western society, and that's what this is what's happening there. So this is one important thing that I want to show about this too. Just to kind of always talk about this where I'm like, fuck the government, or not fuck the government, but like, there's the government does stuff. There's people who do other things. So the private business side of things, I think, is actually much more powerful than people want to give credit to or would like to give credit to. Especially, more communist-minded people would be like, no, we need to control that, and the government should be on top of that. Now, the US has come out. US warns businesses to prepare for civil unrest after the abortion ruling. So the US government's actually coming out. Law enforcement agencies are coming out and telling businesses that they need to look out for civil unrest. So this is adding on to what I was talking about yesterday, where banks got together and they said, hey, we need to actually start planning for civil unrest. So that was the US banks were coming together. There were some world banks who were actually coming together as well in there and saying, look, we're going to have to prepare for civil unrest throughout the world, throughout US and throughout the world. Now the US government, the law enforcement agencies are coming out and saying, hey, businesses, you guys have to prepare for civil unrest. Well, hang on a sec. Let's just back this up a bit. Is the agency that the people employ through our taxes, is that agency whom we employ to do what? Oh, to protect us. Right. Are they the ones that are saying now, hey, you're going to have to prepare for some like rough times coming up? Isn't that your fucking job? Isn't that what you're supposed to be doing? All right. Okay. Cool. So clearly that's a signal to me that they're pretty worried that they're not going to be able to do the one task that they're employed to do, which is protect the public. So yeah, these law enforcement agencies have come out. They're warning corporate leaders. So why this matters? In America, at least, and I think we're starting to see this and feel this in Australia, the political sphere that we're seeing is becoming quite fractured. I mean, it's very, very obvious in the US. I think it's less obvious in Australia because our politics is on the right. The main parties are on one side of that divide, where we're seeing that split, that divide becoming more pronounced in the US. But we are still seeing a bigger gap between the parties in Australia. What we're also seeing is a bigger gap between individuals, between the public in Australia. So, who pays for this? Who actually gets hit with all this? Who has to sort this out? Well, you like to say the government, well, if it's a government problem, the government sorts it out. It's not. It's business who actually sorts this out. It's the business sector who actually has to sort this out. And that's what this story is showing me, that the law enforcement agencies are actually saying, hey, you guys are going to cop this. It's your businesses that are going to get burnt. You're the ones who are going to get shut down. You are the ones who live and operate in these cities that are going to get torched, basically. And good luck with that. Have fun. As individuals then, like what this says to me, if they're warning businesses that they can't protect them, what does that tell me as an individual? It doesn't fill me full of hope and faith that our law enforcement agencies are going to be able to protect us. But I say this all the time. Like, this isn't something new that I'm saying to you. I don't believe that we should be reliant on any of these systems. I think they're there, and I think we should utilize them definitely. And I think the police system within Australia is still good, and it still works. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to just then forget my own personal security and the personal security of my family. I'm not just going to be absolutely reliant on someone else for that. Self-responsibility is what I'm always talking about. Self-reliance is what I'm always talking about. And this is exactly part of it. It's like, okay, if there's riots and things like that, what do I need to do as an individual to better prepare myself? So when I come out into the cities, when I come to places of gatherings where there are more people than I'm used to being around, which is not many, I prepare for that. And so I'll bring extra gear. I'll think about this and I'll be like, okay, well, if a riot did happen, what sort of stuff would I want? So I'll be carrying equipment that I can actually protect myself and ways that I can get out of these sort of situations. These sort of things that I want you to start thinking about as an individual, especially if you're an individual who lives in one of these places, one of these human zoos that we call cities. This is the sort of stuff that should be rattling around in your head. How do I get out of here? What's my escape route? What's my primary? What's my alternate escape route? What's the contingency for me to get out of here? Do I have equipment that's going to protect me against rioters, against riot control agents that are being fired from security forces or police? Something like a gas mask or goggles or, maybe a protective suit, all this sort of stuff. What happens if I'm under attack and I don't have time, or it's not appropriate for me to call 000 and wait 15 minutes for someone to rock up? Do I have the ability to defend myself? Do I have the ability to secure my domicile, my home? Do I have the ability to protect my family? That's something that I think you really want to start putting thought into right now. That if we can start to bring that ability to defend ourselves into the individual or into the family group, then again, we're not then making decisions based on fear. We're not then making decisions based on like, oh, I can't protect myself, so fuck, what do I do? I need to run, or I need to do anything. We're opening up the amount of options that we have available to us. So if there was some people who were attacking my house, there are options I know that I have. I'm not just going to automatically give up. I'm not just going to automatically run away. Okay, I know I have other options available to myself that I can access. And I'm not going to tell you what those are. You can probably put two and two together. But I have those options available to me. And so I would invite you to start exploring those options within your own life. Right, so US getting ready for some warm and spicy times in the streets. All right, what else we got here? Oh man, there's a lot of really disparate information in here. In no particular order, let's talk about some cyber stuff. So, ransomware gang threatens to overthrow Costa Rica's government as attack deepens. So Costa Rica is in the thralls of a fight, a battle in the cyberspace realm, as a ransomware gang has taken control of their information, their government systems, demanding that they pay them. The Costa Rican government sort of pushed back and said, like, we're not going to bow to this. The gang's like, well, we've got your shit, man. So like, you are going to do it. The reason this jumped out to me is it's like, oh, this isn't a business anymore. This wasn't just a sloppy business that, or not a sloppy business, but a business that has sloppy cyber practices, which there are a lot in critical infrastructure, which also worries me. This is a government. So if it can happen in Costa Rica, like, you know, we like to see these sort of stories, I imagine, and go like, that's Costa Rica. That's a poor country. They're not rich like us Australians. We've got our shit sorted. No, we don't have our shit sorted. There are glaring holes within our infrastructure, within our cyber infrastructure that can be exploited. And, you know, we're pretty good at it and we're pretty proactive at it and we're starting to get there. But what we're doing now, the Australian government has invested a lot into cybersecurity, but the Australian government is a bureaucracy and it is slow moving. So we announced that 4 months ago. It will be implemented sometime soonish, or after. Now we've got an election cycle, so put a pause on that for a little while. Then there's going to be the training up of the people and the building of that infrastructure and bringing people in. And then, knowing our government, they'll probably have some sort of investigation into it, or they'll have some commission, or they'll have some council that they'll bring to analyze it and build a report. So 2 years later, then they'll get the answers to that report, and then they'll start acting on it. Like, it's a slow moving beast. The cyber world is not a slow moving beast. Obviously, it is very, very fast. This is something that's concerning. Again, I just like to pull out these sort of things because I think, you know, people think, oh, I slap a VPN on my phone and she'll be right, mate. Well, she will not be right. There's a lot of issues within the cyber space that I think we are all exposed to. And again, it's something that I want to point out to people, that you should analyze what you do online. You should analyze your weaknesses online. Look at where your vulnerabilities are. Look at where your reliances are. How reliant are you? How beholden are you to anything that is based on internet? And I would say in this day and age, quite a lot would be the answer. You are reliant quite a lot, even if you don't see it. You know, you think like, oh no, I'm not, you know, there's really nothing I do on the internet. Well, what about the second level of that? What about the second order of that? What about the people that you get things off? Are they reliant on the internet? If they got exposed, if they got shut down, who has your details? Where are your details out there? Are they exposed? So it's not just you that needs to be necessarily exposed. It's sort of like the second, the third, the fourth ring out that you need to think about as well. But I always think, like, what would happen if I didn't have this? So what would happen if the internet wasn't there? Well, I would just sit here staring at a blank phone, talking like this, and none of you would be able to hear me. I'd do it anyway. No, I wouldn't. I would read this stuff anyway if I could have access to it. But if I couldn't have access to it, I'd probably just sit there on my farm being quite happy, not knowing that shit's going on in the world. But yeah, think about that. Think about how exposed you are to the internet. Think about how exposed you are to cybercrime, and maybe try and plug some of those holes. North Korea has apparently mobilized the military to tackle the explosive COVID outbreak. And they're telling their citizens to gargle some salt water. That'll fix it. Probably not a bad idea. I've certainly done that in the past when I've had a sore throat. Gargle some salt water. It has an effect. Yeah, they seem to be struggling. I think it's interesting that they haven't had COVID until now. Oh, shit. But now they're coming out and admitting it, and they're admitting it in a big way. Like, it's struggling. Why? Why are they doing this now? I'm not sure. But again, you know, a lot of us are like, COVID, that's over. I don't care. I don't want to hear that word anymore. We're done. It's all over. That's behind us. That was history. It's not. And I can see our government's doing this as well. I can see the Australian government doing this. If we had another sort of outbreak or weird variant or something, that they're going to go like, lockdown. So just be thinking about that. I know there's a tendency when you go through a traumatic experience that you just want to fucking throw that away or put it in a box and never look at it again. But just have that in the back of your mind. Like, okay, if there was lockdowns, what would I do? How would I live? You know, how would I best prepare myself? for that future. Betadine is supposed to be good for that too. Yeah, I remember gargling betadine. It's disgusting, but it's supposed to be good for it. Pax America again falling apart. The end of the American empire. A US-hosted summit of the Americas is only a month away, but it looks like a lot of the guests are saying, yeah, but no, I'm not coming. So the US is still going down this path of what I see of like, being the big dog in the world and telling people you can do this and you can't do that. And hey, you're not allowed to do this. We're sanctioning you, but that's because we want to do it solely. So they're pointing a lot of fingers down at the Americas, especially down south. They're saying Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, not you guys. You're not allowed to come to our meeting of the Americas. So it's you're not involved. We're sanctioning you. We don't like you. You're not coming. So Brazilian President Bolsonaro has said, well, if they're not coming, I'm not coming. Mexican leader Lopez Obrador, I think that's how you say it, has also said that he's not coming if those guys aren't coming. So all of a sudden, the big boss of the world doesn't look so powerful. I think this is where we're trending as the world, where US has been the supreme power. I think people are smelling blood in the water now, and they're really starting to turn their back on the US and feed other ways and other wares. So always just interesting things to watch. What effect does this have on Australia? I think this has a pretty dramatic effect. We've hitched our wagon to the US for a long time, and increasingly still over the last couple of years. So as they fall, so do we, maybe. It'll be just interesting to see what happens in that space, I think, and what effect that could have in Australia. All right, let's jump back into some more civil unrest and fighting. Fighting erupts in Libyan capital as the PM power struggles reach flashpoint. Armed fighting exploded in Tripoli, which, I mean, that's the way it's going to go in a country like this, in this part of the world. When we hit riots, it's going to pretty quickly, they're not going to come out and start throwing rocks at each other when everyone's got AKs. So armed fighting exploded in Tripoli, which is their capital. Armed groups supporting the rival leader clashed with those who are loyal to the current prime minister. So a lot of fighting also there. Again, I like to just point out these things. Does this have an effect on Australians? Does this matter to us? No, not necessarily. It matters in the big picture when we take that step back and we look at it and go, oh, hang on, what's happening in the world? Again, here's yet another place where civil unrest is happening. It's not just the US that is fighting amongst itself. It is really widespread. It's happening in a lot of places throughout the world. And a lot of these places that are like the Western world's blind spots. I'm always baffled at why world news in a newspaper would take up 2 pages tucked in after the classifieds. And there's like 3 pages about freaking Kim Kardashian or some shit, that's happening at the front of the page. Like stuff that I'm like, I do not care about any of this stuff. I care about this world stuff. Like, this is the impactful stuff. This is going to have effects that ripple down through time. Whoever the latest celebrity is suing whatever other friggin' celebrity has really no bearing to me at all, or to the future of the world generally. Anyway, yeah. So Libya, that's in turmoil. Israeli police, again, there's more wildness going off over there. Again, at that another funeral procession, as their police started detaining people. It's pretty, the news coming out from around that is going to have ripple effects in that area. Israeli, sort of side note on this, Israel also came out and is really ramping up the finger pointing at Iran at the moment, saying Iran is definitely upgrading uranium. They're definitely making nuclear weapons. This is a big concern for them. Obviously, those 2 countries are not in love with each other, and if one of them gets the nuclear capability, then we're going to have another India-Pakistan situation where those 2 countries are constantly at that level of where they could drop a nuke on each other. Not a great situation for the world as a whole. what else we got here? Let's talk about China for a second. Was talking with one of the contacts that I talk to quite often through Instagrams, and they rightly said that this is worth noting. Again, I have talked about this in the past, but China has at the moment about 70% of the world's grain supply built up. They've got just under 20% of the world's population. So what does that equal? That stretches out. If like things shut down and there was, that's it, right? What you've got now is what you've got now. Probably they're going to be able to feed their entire population for about 2 years. Interestingly, I'm looking at the stats. Okay, so you can see a marked increase where it's gone from, what are we? Under 30 million tons, like 25 million tons is a top per year that they're importing, to all of a sudden, last year, 65 million tons, and this year it looks like they'll hit 65 million tons again. So pretty big increase. Where are they getting a lot of this stuff from? Well, guess who? Yes, guess who the major exporter of wheat to China is? Us, not me. I don't personally do it, but it's us, Australia. We export wheat en masse. Well, we have been exporting wheat en masse to China, then Canada, then US, and then I think France. So, I mean, there's good signs there. That tells me that, again, that we're a net exporter of food. So that's a good thing. If things do go pear-shaped and we do have to shut down, that means we're the ones who create food. Again, this is another one of those things that when I talk about like the world's going mad and crazy, and I'm getting a bit sky is falling, and I always have that caveat. But in Australia, we're going to be more insulated against these effects than anywhere else. We are going to have that insulation against it because this is one of those factors. Because we are a net exporter of food. We create food here in Australia. The other part of this is whenever I see stories where we're not creating food, when we're destroying food, or when our crops are getting destroyed, I'm like, I'm stressing a little bit. All right, I'm getting a bit sweaty here. That concerns me. So good things that are going on there. Also that China is buying up our stuff. So again, we're insulated against effects that happen in the world because China. All right. So we're linked politically with US, with the US Anglosphere. We're linked economically with China. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with those guys if they crumble, if they go bad? Will it go bad for Australia? Yeah, maybe. But there's some good things there too. I don't want to show you all the bad things. Here's some bad things though. The stock market. It's just red. NASDAQ down 4.7%, S&P 500 down 4%, Dow down 3.5%. Again, I haven't really talked financial stuff in a couple of weeks, I think. But I'll just say this. It doesn't really matter what the finance market does in 1 or 2 days. Don't freak out that this has happened, that there's a lot of red here. It does this. It does this sometimes, all right? It goes down, it goes up. But what I'm seeing is it going down and up with intense or more intense frequency, like usually like, oh, there's a down, oh, there's an up, oh, there's a bit, it's doing that sort of stuff. At the moment, it's going like, ha, 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 and it's actually like, if you look at the month, it's like, whoa, down, down, down. It's the fast moves and the multiple fast moves that I think it should be a concern to you. When we start to see the stock market resemble more a friggin' roulette wheel, like it's like, who's going to win? What are we betting on today? That's never a good sign. Historically, it's never been a good sign. When you get increased jumps like this in the market, up or down, because you could make money. You can still make money off the market. It's there to be made. You could make money, or you can make money. That's what I'm talking about. It's like gambling at the moment. It's becoming more like a casino. Whenever we've seen that, it's never ended well. It's always preceded a crash. Whenever we're seeing that sort of effect. So again, not a great sign. It's becoming more and more de-linked from actual reality, from those mechanisms that should be holding markets solid or moving markets in certain ways. I'm seeing more. There's the sun coming through now. More and more intensity in the market. That's probably the best way I can put it. Intensity within the market. So, I mean, this is something you just want to think about. I always preach diversification of your money, your assets, whatever you're doing. Should you have all your money in the markets? I think that's probably a bad idea. Should you have all your money in gold and silver? No, I think that's also a bad idea. Diversify what you're doing. Think about the things that you need. Think about the things that you need to survive and that your family needs to survive, and maybe start implementing plans around them. Put your finances into that, your energy into that. Think about shelter, think about housing, think about property, think about land, think about growing things, think about gardening, think about food stores, think about water stores, think about the ability to generate electricity. All these sorts of things. Think about becoming a self-reliant human being. And then also think about gold and silver, and also think about stocks, and also think about crypto. Like all the things. Why not all the things? If you've got the ability to. But if not, the things that you need to survive, start implementing plans to extend that ability out, just in case. You're going to eat anyway, right? Doesn't matter if the markets go up or down, you're still going to eat. You're going to need to eat. It doesn't matter if we all go fucking Mad Max and the apocalypse comes, or if we invent some new piece of technology tomorrow and Elon Musk comes out and rips off his mask, says, I'm actually an alien android and I've got all the answers to your problem, society, and here it is, we're a utopia. You're still going to need to eat. So investing in that sort of mindset, and like, what are the things that keep me alive? Food is always a good investment. Don't worry about it. All right. Last thing I'm going to talk about is another sandstorm hits Baghdad. I was talking about that sandstorm that hit there the 2-3 days ago. Another one hit there. These big, like, just to put this on scale, when I say sandstorm, people often think like, oh yeah, well, you just like, oh, it's a sandstorm. Or you think about Darude, like, everyone who sort of grew up everyone who was like in that age bracket in the 90s was just like, yeah, Darude sandstorm. You know what I'm talking about. No, sandstorms, they're quite serious. 4,000 suffocation cases. All right, so it's not just like, oh, I got a bit of dirt in my eye. Ugh. I have to wash my car again. It's like, no, you can die. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Lauren. I've got it like playing on loop in my head now. It's really distracting. I'm going to go play it after I jump off here. Another sandstorm hit the Iraqi capital of Baghdad on Monday, forcing airports to temporarily suspend flights and leaving 4,000 suffocation cases in the capital. So these are big things. Again, always like to point out weather effects. I'm a little bit obsessed with looking at the weather and our planet. What is actually happening now, the warming effects that we're seeing that have increased over the past 2 decades now. A lot of people are like, oh, global warming, it's all bullshit and that, blah, blah, it's not going to happen. And, you switch to call it climate change. Actually, global warming is happening. I'm not saying that it was man-made or it's, it's not, but it is happening. If you look at global average temperatures, and especially global water average temperatures of ocean temperatures, like, it's been steadily increasing for 2 decades now. Like, that's a fact. Go on the NOAA website and you can actually see that. Not the guy who built the boat. But you could ask him if you bump into NOAA. Definitely go ask him. Do things get tough? Do bad times come? Are there huge weather effects and floods? I think NOAA will tell you yes. Yes, there are. Build a boat. Yeah, so again, like these sorts of effects, I think we're going to see these again. I'm like a fucking broken record about this. Increased frequency, increased intensity of weather effects, fires, floods, sandstorms, hurricanes, wind effects, storm damage, maybe earthquakes and stuff like that as well. So prepare thyself, build thy boat. Think about this. Think about how your house is, how you're situated. Think about whether you live in a floodplain or not. How exposed to fires you are, and what kind of things can you start to do to defend against those and then what sort of things you can do. So locking down, how can you protect yourself against those in your house and keep it safe? And then what are you going to do if you can't? Do you have an escape plan? Can you bug out? Do you have a grab bag and things like that? So have a think about that today while you're gardening out in the sunshine. Oh, -1 here this morning. It was great. Beautiful. Love it. Book of Revelations is playing out. Yeah. My favorite of all the books from the Bible is the Book of Revelations. Maybe it's playing out. I don't know. Certainly could make some interpretations, and it's a pretty whack book if you haven't read it. Doesn't make a lot of literal sense. There's a lot of 7 horned, 7-headed beasts and 7 trumpets and 7 vials and all sorts of weird imagery. I don't know. I wonder if you did some mushrooms or something or ayahuasca and then tried to read the Book of Revelations. Maybe you'd be like, I get it now. This makes so much more sense. I'm not suggesting anyone do that today. Hey, have a look at this. Oh, sunlight coming through. I'm going to leave you with this image in your head. So, Becky Gaddis, you've been studying it for a while. Then I would love to hear from you. Shoot me through some messages with your thoughts. I would love to chat to you. I love talking religions of all sorts to people. I love talking apocalyptic visions and stuff like that to all sorts of all sorts to people. So shoot me through a message. Let's have a chat. Then we can come up with some crazy ideas too. Be cool. All right. Until next time, guys. I'm off to work, so have a great day. Keep prepping. Keep getting that stuff ready. Keep building up those food stores. It's never going to hurt. It's never a bad idea. And if you can, start gardening. Get out there in the garden. Start doing that stuff. But keep getting yourselves ready, because as I said at the start here, what I'm trying to do here is convert fear into confidence, that we have enough fear to keep our eyes open and to react to situations, but not so much that we actually freeze up and freak out and do an inappropriate action. We can see the things that are unfolding around us. We can see how they threaten us, and we have the confidence and the ability to move forward in life. And that's really what I want to build within people, within human beings. So be a more resilient human being, be a more self-reliant human being. And until next time, Semper Paratus.